Welcome to Let's Talk Bayfront on what I've been calling the two-est of all Tuesdays. I'm your host, Jill Harry, the Press Officer and Community Relations Coordinator for the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation's Northwest Region. Today we are talking with Brenda Sandberg of the Erie-Western Pennsylvania Port Authority. We are excited to have her on the show and join our monthly lunchtime chat where we talk about different aspects of the Bayfront Parkway Central Corridor Improvement Project planned for the city of Erie. The Bayfront Parkway Central Corridor Improvement Project. It's a big name for a big plan with lots of components. So the goal of this program is to break them down into smaller pieces and invite some experts to help us dive deeper into each topic. And we want to hear from the public along the way. Those joining us live can submit questions through the Q&A box. For those listening later on, you can reach us via the email address bayfrontproject@pa.gov. As time allows, we will get to as many questions on the day's topic as we can. Quick reminder, if you are joining the live session, you can turn on captions in a variety of languages. Just click on the three dots on the toolbar at the top of your screen and choose the language that is best for you. We are recording this session, so it will be posted along with others in the monthly series at PennDOT's website, penndot.gov/district1. There you will also find links to future live episodes. We plan to hold our chats monthly starting at 12:05 on the fourth Tuesday, so make sure to mark your calendar to tune in each month and submit your questions. Links to each session will be posted on the website and in the Bayfront Parkway Project Facebook group. As I said earlier, we have Brenda Sandberg with us today. She is the Executive Director of the Erie-Western Pennsylvania Port Authority, which is located on Lake Erie right off the Bayfront Parkway. We are happy to have Brenda on the show to give us an update on all the roadway-related projects the authority has planned for the coming year and how they complement the Bayfront Parkway Central Corridor Plan. Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
So it's kind of our tradition to have our guests start off by telling us a little bit about their background leading up to their current involvement on the improvements along the Bayfront in Erie.
Okay, well, my background is probably like most others. It's kind of a long and winding road to get to where I am. Let's see, I'm a graduate of the University of Buffalo up in New York, which is where I grew up. Double majored in urban and regional analysis and environmental studies. And then as soon as I graduated, I found a position down here in Erie and have been here ever since. The vast majority of my career has been in local and regional governments. The last position I held previous to being Executive Director of the Port Authority was being Director of the Department of Economic and Community Development for the City of Erie, which also related to being a cabinet position in the Senate administration. Then I've been at the Port Authority for about 7 years, just over 7 years ago, which has given me great opportunities, not only to come on this podcast, but also to work on a substantial number of projects across the Bayfront, as well as work with maritime leaders across the entire Great Lakes.
That is a very unique story, Brenda.
Thank you.
So this is exciting. It will be great to hear a little bit of a different perspective on the Bayfront project since you're coming at it from the Port Authority angle. So what kind of improvements does the port have going on kind of in connection with the Bayfront Parkway project?
So specific to being complementary to the Central Bayfront Parkway project, we are working on 3 different projects right now. One would be the Lower State Street project. Then we also have a West Front Street project. And then our third and final project related to the Central Bayfront Parkway corridor would be what I call Waterworks Road. It really doesn't have a name. Some people call it Lower Sassafras Street, but it's the roadway that is one way south from the Bayfront Parkway that traverses the bluff and connects the Bayfront with the downtown grid.
Okay, so 3 distinct projects. If I'm visualizing this correctly, 2 are on the north side and 1 is on the south side of the parkway, correct?
Correct.
All right. Okay, so let's just break them down a little bit. So what is entailed in the West Front Street project and what's the timeline for that work?
Oh, the West Front Street project. That is probably one of the most complicated projects I've worked on, in my entire career to date. High level, the project consists of the creation of a roadway between State Street and Sassafras Street over at the Convention Center. It'll be a rework of the roadway that currently exists now, which many people might call a driveway. In addition to that roadway, we will also be creating additional bike and pedestrian access, both on the north side of the roadway and the south side of the roadway. And all of this is being done in partnership with the Convention Center Authority. The bicycle path, the nice thing about this project is we have taken the time and the effort to create two different pathway systems, one being a pedestrian path on the north side of the roadway and the other being what I hope to be a strictly bicycle path on the south side. And all of this will allow for greater connectivity. What's really important is the connectivity, not only during construction of the Central Bayfront Parkway corridor, but it was identified in our master plan as long-term connectivity and access to all the businesses that are currently down there as well, whether it be Wolverine, Gem City Marina, some of the other marinas, and the Convention Center Authority. I think the reason why the project is so complicated is due to the fact of the requirement to relocate the utilities, but also that we are working with PennDOT and the Central Bayfront Parkway corridor to advance some of the utility work that's going to be required as part of your project. So it's a great partnership that we have with PennDOT, that we have the ability to advance some of those utilities, which will allow them to get done prior to the construction of the Bayfront Parkway, but also what it'll allow you to do is not come back in after we did our entire project and tear it all up again and have to recreate what we just created. So it's a wonderful partnership that we have. The project itself is underway by Shivers Construction. I believe you asked me the timeline. So the project is roughly a little over $5 million. The project is currently underway, and we do anticipate that we will have the project completed by late September, but definitely in advance of when you begin the Central Bayfront Parkway corridor project.
That does sound very like a lot of moving parts. It's like a mini Bayfront almost happening in there with all of the different components for both the motorized traffic, but also the pedestrians and the cyclists. So what a great companion project. So are you doing something similar on State Street, or what are the details there?
Yeah, so the State Street project is in the area from East Front Street, West Front Street, where we just talked about, north up to the area prior to the turnaround. So that entire area, our master plan in 2018 identified the need for the dock wall that holds up State Street to be replaced. And that replacement was kind of immediate. So we worked hard to secure funding. And on behalf of the city, the Port Authority did acquire funding to replace the dock wall. But this is more than just a dock wall project. So for those that are familiar with the area, you may recall that there's a boardwalk pedestrian system, and that boardwalk pedestrian system is really at the end of its useful life. So not only was the infrastructure itself in need of replacement, but the landscaping, even the trees that were planted along State Street were identified by a consultant by the Parks and Recreational Society as being too low hanging over a pedestrian walkway and really detrimental to those, especially those that may have sight challenges. So the project will also include the replacement of that wooden boardwalk with stamped concrete, provide new landscaping, which will include really thoughtfully placed walkways that will allow you to park your vehicle on State Street, put money in the meter, and then have a paved walkway that goes from the meter over to our sidewalk. So that was something that we gave a considerable amount of thought to. And it also provides better handicapped accessibility. And we're even creating a new pocket park adjacent to Wolverine Marina. So on this one, the project is underway by Perry Construction here locally in Erie. We anticipate that it'll be substantially complete by about the 4th of July. And the project cost on this one is about $5 million.
So a lot of walkway work, you mentioned a lot of landscaping and lighting and other considerations for accessibility there. It sounds like it'll be, in some ways, a whole new experience for pedestrians headed down to the waterway there in that neighborhood.
Yeah, without a doubt. These two projects that we just talked about, as well as the Waterworks Road project on the south side, have really been designed to enhance the user's experience, regardless of their mode of travel. So whether you're traveling by car, it'll look great, but if you're taking the time and out of your car and walking or biking, you will have just as many enhancements there, and they're just as much of a priority as the vehicular ones. The push to have all these three projects complete prior to the Central Bayfront Parkway project is really to ensure that all modes of transportation have that connectivity that we talked about throughout your parkway construction process, because we know that that is going to be a long process, and keeping those connections, whether it be pedestrian or vehicular, is very important. And really, that we've done a lot of outreach, and not only through our master plan when we created the master plan, but public outreach with the projects themselves for individual site-specific concerns that the public may address.
So you kind of briefly mentioned there again, Waterworks Road, and if you could see me, you'd see I was using quotes there, Waterworks Road. Can you provide the listeners maybe a little bit more detail on what that project entails?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the unnamed roadway that currently exists from really about the Erie Waterworks Administration offices. And for those that are familiar in the area, it's immediately adjacent to what we know locally as Big Bertha. The roadway is the one-way south road from the Bayfront Parkway, and it connects at the top of the bluff with West Front Street. So this project will enhance the current connection by providing a new sidewalk, which doesn't exist today, as well as a bike lane on the existing roadway. And the roadway, which is currently owned by the Port Authority but maintained by the City of Erie, will be reconstructed to city specifications with the adding of lighting and landscaping. And then for those of you who may drive the roadway, you may know that when you approach West Front Street, up at the top of the bluff, you almost have to break your neck looking backwards to see if there's oncoming traffic. So at the request of the city and best practices, the intersection at the top of the bluff there will be realigned to provide better sight distance when you enter that intersection. But in addition to those improvements, the authority will construct and maintain a new bicycle and pedestrian path as well. And that is on what some may know as the old Myrtle bed, the bed of Myrtle Street, which wides into the existing roadway. So as with all other pedestrian roadways, this will be constructed to meet ADA specifications, will include pull-off and rest areas every 30 feet, and all of those pull-off and rest areas will provide a great view of Presque Isle Bay. The project itself right now is in final design. We are going back and forth with the consultant a little bit. I'm hoping for a March let date, but it may be pushed into April. But either way, we do anticipate that the project again will be completed prior to the construction of the Central Bayfront Parkway project. And we're estimating that this project will fall in the category of about $2 million.
So it sounds like you got to keep your hard hat handy all summer. So all these projects happening at one time, that sounds like a lot to juggle.
It is. We have a great team here at the Port Authority. We are small but mighty, and we have great consulting staff as well. So I couldn't do it without them.
So I know one of the emphasis here on PennDOT at PennDOT, and you kind of touched on this a little bit already, but making that coordinated and intentional effort to partner with other people and to make sure that our plans are, benefiting each other and the timeline for doing them is beneficial to each other. I'm sure that that is an important thing here for the port as well. Yes?
Absolutely. Coordination really has been the key to success for all three of these projects. We've held basically monthly coordination meetings with PennDOT, the city, utility companies, to ensure, like you said, that we're all rowing in the same direction. We've worked with PennDOT, as we mentioned earlier, to advance some of the Central Bayfront Parkway utility work to limit the amount of disturbance that are to our project once you go under construction with the Central Bayfront Parkway project. In addition, we're working with Erie Waterworks, who identified the need to run a water line up the bluff. And so Erie Waterworks is in the process of designing that and will be incorporated into that Erie Waterworks Road project, which will save them some funds in the long run as well by incorporating it into our project when we already have that area disturbed. The city really has been with us every step of the way. They're reviewing drawings, providing input on how they'd like to see the projects constructed. They are a wonderful partner as they have agreed to accept West Front Street and Waterworks Road when those projects are complete. So they will be added to the city's grid system. On a side note, the authority has begun working with Erie Arts and Culture and our West Bayfront neighborhood to collaborate on a public art piece for the old staircase that again is in that project corridor of the Erie Waterworks Road. For those that may know, it's a staircase that the neighbors unearthed literally and dug out, and we're hoping to be able to incorporate that as a piece of public art in the future. So lots of partnerships.
Yes, it sounds like it. And I remember those stairs coming up during one of the Bayfront meetings that we had for PennDOT's Bayfront project, and some gentlemen coming to the meeting and speaking about that work that you were just mentioning there about literally digging up the steps. So I guess that kind of like brings me to another question. So when we do these projects, like I just mentioned, we'll have those public outreach efforts to get, that input. And you touched on this just a tiny bit earlier in one of your other questions, but so for these projects, did you do the same thing, like go out into the public and see what their thoughts were?
We most certainly did. And, Jill, I think you and I have talked about this before that, we all believe that, we've been doing all of this planning work during the pandemic, and we all believe that the pandemic may have hampered our ability to accept and collect public comment. But I think we're really fortunate that that didn't happen. And in fact, it may have done the opposite by providing community members unlimited access to the design through an online public comment period that extended for 2 weeks. That certainly increased participation over the old way of just having, 1 or 2 public meetings at a specific date and time. So I guess a good example of that would be the statistics that really impressed me were on that Waterworks Road public outreach. We had somewhere right around 600 unique visitors to the site. So, and some of those visitors came back multiple times, but we were able to identify 600 unique visitors, plus or minus, which I think, Jill, you would probably agree that far exceeds the usual 30 or 40 that we might see in a one-day period when we hold a public meeting.
Yes, I agree. We've had very similar successes here at PennDOT with doing things online, and the Bayfront for us has also been an example of that when we did both the hybrid and the in-person and the online meeting, and we saw that increased participation online. So that's great that the port has been able to tap into that as well. So
yeah, and I think one of the great things about that is the statistic. Typically when people are online, they don't spend a lot of time online. They're on and off a site pretty quickly. But the average time for one of those unique users to be on the website was close to an hour, which is really impressive.
That is really good outreach. That means they probably spend a lot of time investigating your maps, which is good, and trying to understand. So hopefully they also get a chance to listen today if they still had questions about what exactly the plan was there. So let's just take a step away from the port specific projects, and I just want to ask, how will the port benefit from the Bayfront Parkway Central Corridor project?
That's a great question. I think the port will benefit in the same way as the community. I mean, your project will provide really enhanced connectivity between the waterfront and the downtown, which has been the goal and priority of really all of the community plans, whether it's the city's master plan, a neighborhood plan, the port's plan. Really, the waterfront is one of the areas, and I might be a bit biased and say it is the community's greatest asset. So, I would like to give thanks to you and your designers, really, as you've gone through the process. You've listened to the stakeholders, as we talked about. You've addressed specific concerns. For the Port Authority, that specific concern was really based in the fact that, unlike many of our other Great Lake Ports friends, we are seeing a steady increase in the amount of product coming into the port year over year, and really ensuring that landside connection between the port and the interstate system, even as part of this project, was extremely important to us. And you and your project team have addressed that.
And we did get a question from the public, and I think it kind of goes right along with what you're kind of talking about here. So I'm going to ask it a little bit more generally, but they're asking about the port's role in the decision making for the pedestrian bridge. But maybe you can just kind of elaborate a little bit on the port's involvement in this process, the entire planning process for this project, as we've been working to design it. The port's been involved, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've been involved since day one. We are one of many, many, many stakeholders. So we have a singular voice, just like anybody else. But yeah, we have been participating in the decision-making process all along with, your coordinating committee and your TAC committee and all the others. So, we have the same voice as anybody else. And I think you've really proven that you've listened to those voices.
So at PennDOT, we're always talking about how large projects only get done through partnerships. So this really goes along with what we're talking about here. And the port has definitely been a great partner for us. So we thank you for that. And you must be getting really excited to see your projects getting closer. And also the PennDOT's project edging closer to construction as well. It's going to be a real busy place down there for you for a little while.
It is. I think the next couple of years are going to be really exciting, and the product at the end is going to be something that is going to last generations and be enjoyed by generations to come.
So thank you, Brenda, for coming and talking with us today. That was a lot of great information. I'm sure some people will maybe even go back and listen again so they can get all the little details, because you had so much to share. But is there a place where people can go and just find out more about the port in general?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can go to our website, which is www.porterie.org. And I'm always available. We always make ourselves available to answer questions, or if you have a group, I talk to Kiwanis, Rotary, church groups, just about everybody. So if you ever have any questions, yeah, our door is always open.
Thank you again. And just for everyone else's information, just a reminder that PennDOT's Bayfront project has information also available online at bayfrontparkwayproject.com. Our next live session of Let's Talk Bayfront is scheduled for March 22nd, when we will have guests Ron Johnson and Jeff Bucher of PennDOT, and they will talk about roundabouts and general information, and those ones that plan specifically on the Bayfront. We hope that you'll join us for that session and bring your questions. Check out Bayfront Parkway Project Facebook group and the website for the link to join that session as well. And once again, thank you, Brenda, and thank you to our producer, Hannah Stiller, and everyone have a great day.